Bloomberg Tech is live from coast to coast with Caroline Hyde in New York and Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
This is Bloomberg Tech. Coming up, Starships were meant to fly, but scrubbed. SpaceX delays a critical test seconds before launch. Plus, we'll discuss the space company's planned mega IPO with a SpaceX alumni and an early investor, and Lenovo Soars post-earnings on strong AI growth. We sit down for an exclusive interview with the world-leading PC maker's CFO, Winston Cheng. But first, SpaceX's 12th Starship test flight, for now, scrubbed.
All right, it is sounding like we are not going to be able to clear this issue in time today, so we are going to be standing down from a launch.
SpaceX delaying a critical test of its massive Starship rocket after a pin tied to the launch tower mechanism failed to retract during the final countdown. The setback comes just a day after the company formally filed for an IPO. Bloomberg's Loren Grush back with us. Another attempt penciled for this Friday evening. But can you believe it? The tension, the drama, the anticipation. Loren in one city, Ed Ludlow in another, and it's a piece of metal that stops us going of a hold T-minus 40 seconds. Do we know what happened?
Right. So from what Elon said, it sounded like it was a hydraulic pin that controlled the arm on the launch tower. They mentioned a quick disconnect. All these things need to move rapidly out of the way once the launch takes place so that the rocket can actually clear the tower. So it might seem small, pretty important. That's just what makes rocket launches so exciting, right? One tiny little piece of technology could go wrong and, the whole thing gets stopped. So it sounded like there were also a number of other issues they were working too. Something with the flame trench also had stopped the countdown at 1.2. This is all a new pad, right? So this is a new rocket, a new launch pad. And I think with this launch, they definitely wanted to go well this time, just given all of the stakes surrounding their IPO and their filing that they had this week. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're being a little extra cautious this time than they have been with previous test missions.
So new pad 2 at Starbase, Texas, Boca Chica, Texas. This is a test flight, 12th test flight, but a brand new architecture for Starship, right? Basically the hardware, top to tail, the Starship spacecraft at the top, that's the black pointy bit, if you're looking at the screen right now, and the Super Heavy booster on the bottom. Why is that important, Loren?
Well, the anticipation has been super high for this launch because it's the debut of the third iteration of Starship, what's known as version 3 or V3. And this vehicle is supposed to be the one that kind of achieves all of the dreams that Starship has laid out, right? It's supposed to get to that really massive payload capacity of 100 metric tons. It's also supposed to be optimized for total reuse, which is kind of the ultimate holy grail that they want to achieve with Starship, being able to bring back both Starship and the Super Heavy booster intact so that they can rapidly refly them again. And so this is kind of the version that's supposed to do all of that. And so I think, everyone is, waiting on pins and needles to see if it will actually work as intended.
Right. The prior iterations of Starship, 35 metric tons payload to low Earth orbit. They want to get 100 metric tons more. Bloomberg's Loren Grush. Please don't go far. Thank you very much. Let's get more on SpaceX and why a new, re-engineered, new architecture Starship matters. With Laura Crabtree, CEO of Epsilon 3. Laura spent more than a decade at SpaceX, supported milestone missions, the first Dragon launch, the company's first crewed mission to the International Space Station. I think you left prior to Starship really kicking off, but you understand why this matters. So let's start with the V3. Why does it matter?
It matters because people have been waiting, as Loren just alluded to. Everyone's been waiting for this next iteration, for it to be operational, to be able to book a launch on Starship. And I think it will enable the next iteration of what we want to see as the space industry continues to grow and access to space continues to be easier, more affordable, et cetera. And we can take larger payloads. We can take more people to the moon. We can take lunar rovers. more quickly. And I think everyone's been waiting for that for a long time now.
Laura, you'll understand. So SpaceX's S1 went public, and a main focus of it was that larger future payload you're talking about being orbital data center. But the core mission, the kind of founding mission of SpaceX is to make humankind a multiplanetary species, right? We haven't on the show talked as much about that human payload. Sorry if that's probably not the kindest way of putting it, but the human payload element of it. How would that work in Starship? You know, the idea is that, you know, if you're going to go the distance of Mars, but even in the near term, the moon, it is Starship that is the best technology platform to get us there. Is that the idea?
That is the idea. And, you know, Elon has talked many times at company all hands, and I'm sure, you know, also out in the public about the future goal of making humans multiplanetary species. So the ultimate goal of something like Starship is to make life interplanetary, to enable that future we want to see. We, as he said, you know, we don't want to be like the dinosaurs, and we don't want to go extinct on this planet. And so there are a lot of pieces that SpaceX needs to achieve to get there, because the mission for SpaceX to be multiplanetary, but you have to have the building blocks of data centers, you have to have Starlink, you have to have all of the things that we've built up to this point, and this is just the next piece of the puzzle.
You were the senior mission operations engineer. You basically trained the crew, and you oversaw and ran the Dragon spacecraft mission. So for the Bloomberg Tech audience, SpaceX getting humans to the International Space Station or into space so far has been Falcon 9 with a Dragon capsule on top. I'm now showing Starship V3 pictures right now, Laura. The bit that I think people are finding it hard to understand is within the design of the Starship spacecraft, different to putting a capsule on Falcon 9, how would that work? Like, literally, where do the astronauts go?
So there have been lots of design iterations, and I'm not entirely sure where the design iteration is right now. But from the last I saw, the Starship would then take all the humans to the moon, and there would be the complete payload would be human. So, you know, it would be geared towards humans. So there would be toilets, there would be the pods for people to live in while they're being transported to the moon. So that is more the idea, I believe. And so that's something that we still have yet to see until Starship is operational and many flights have taken place. I don't think we will know exactly the designs, and I believe SpaceX is probably waiting to unveil that in future versions.
Could you try and take us inside SpaceX a little bit? You know, part of covering the almost launch of the 12th test flight yesterday is seeing the sort of gathering of SpaceX staff and engineers, everyone that worked on the re-engineering, the new architecture. When Elon Musk or the other leaders go to the team and say, let's rip up the script, the blueprint, and start again, what's that process like to get it onto the pad?
Yeah, it's a challenge. That in the industry, there's something called a challenge coin. So you get a challenge coin if you're going to work really hard on something, but it feels like there's a challenge coin on the line all the time. So you're given a somewhat insurmountable problem, and you have to go and solve it. And I think the difference that most people are now noting is that within SpaceX and many startups that you see in the industry today, you're given more responsibility to make decisions than you would have in a traditional large aerospace company. And so you're given a problem, you go and solve the problem to the best of your ability, and then you come together, test the problem, iterate. That's why you're seeing so quick iteration from Starship, because the engineers are being pushed to continue to think outside of the box. You can't design something like Starship with the things that have been done in the past.
Present day, Laura, you're the CEO of Epsilon 3, a software platform that if you are trying to pull off a high stakes operational testing manufacturing procedure, which I think Starship kind of is right now, That's what you need. So I think you're in a good place to just tell us to end. We have 30 seconds. Just how difficult is what SpaceX is trying to do right now with this Starship program?
Yeah, I think Loren alluded to this earlier, but there are millions of decisions that need to be made and millions of technical things that need to go right. So having one small thing like a pin and maybe a couple of out of family temperatures is actually miraculous. You can expect scrubs, you can expect some failure, but when you get to the end, you should have tested enough small things. And that's really what we, at Epsilon 3 want, is to have the infrastructure built to test enough small things that when you get to the mission, you get to the final launch, that you have done enough, that you have the most confidence that your mission will go well. And I think that's what SpaceX is doing.
Laura Crabtree, CEO of Epsilon 3, formerly Senior Mission Operations Engineer, alumni of SpaceX. Thank you so much for being on Bloomberg Tech. Now, coming up, Winston Cheng of Lenovo joins us following the company's just blowout results. Strong growth in AI for the world's leading PC maker. This is what markets look like on the week. And I'd forgive you if you forgot that in the middle of this week, we had earnings from the world's most valuable company. Nvidia's down actually almost 4% on the week, right? The NASDAQ 100 is buoyant, a little bifurcation because Nvidia was accountable for so much of the gain and rally in equity markets in recent weeks. But over 5 days, that's the picture. Nvidia kind of trailing behind. This is Bloomberg Tech. Shares of Lenovo absolutely soaring in Hong Kong trading overnight. A gain of 20% was the biggest single-day jump since 2008. This after the company reported strong growth in AI-related earnings, offsetting challenges from, what the challenges are, rising component prices. Winston Cheng, CFO of Lenovo, joins us from New York City. And Winston, it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you,
Ed. Very much for the time. Everyone knows Lenovo, leading PC maker in the world. But I think to start, I wondered if we could just go a bit deeper into what AI-related revenues actually look like for Lenovo, define them, and then we can extrapolate out on what the story is here.
Yeah, we're certainly very well known for our PC, given our dominance in the space for many, many years. But we are actually more than a PC maker. We have the most complete portfolio in terms of devices, from PCs to tablets to smartphone. It's the most complete portfolio at scale on a global basis, on a non-iOS basis. And that serves as the foundation for AI devices going forward in terms of our product portfolio set. We have our hybrid strategy, enables us to have from the pocket to the cloud. And you're seeing that gain in terms of our infrastructure business in the latest quarter, in terms of that compute capability that is now being used for infrastructure from AI training to AI inferencing.
The US listed shares, or ADRs, also massive performance today. I appreciate, Winston, you're the CFO. Maybe you don't keep a constant eye on the share price, but the biggest jump since 2008, it has to tell you something. Do you attribute that to the appreciation maybe that you're getting for the infrastructure business? What do you think the market is maybe seeing now that it hasn't before?
Yeah, so certainly we're not defined by one quarter. We're in for the long haul, and the AI spend and opportunity is also for decades to come. But we're defining this as the AI decade for Lenovo, and I think we're in the first year of that journey, and you can see the result of that focus. In terms of our capabilities, we've actually been investing in this for over 10 years. Our ability to be able to produce at scale on a global basis for both on the device side and also the infrastructure side is unique to Lenovo. We can serve hyperscalers and also enterprises on that basis as well. And our portfolio set with the IBM heritage that when we made the acquisition in 2015 gives us a solid foundation to be able to serve the AI compute capabilities today, given the high performance compute genetics that we have with our industry liquid cooling technology as well.
On Monday, Winston, I was with Jensen Huang in Las Vegas. Of course, Vera Rubin coming later this year. That matters to you. And we were speaking with one of your peers, Michael Dell. And I was trying to understand from them the story for the PC in a world where we are shifting to inference, but also agentic AI. Can you give me any evidence or data that the more commonplace use of AI agents actually drives enterprise knowledge worker acquisition of PCs, new PCs at scale?
Yeah, we certainly see our AI PC demand being very strong, and it's been increasing in terms of our portfolio. Our AI revenues today is about 38% of our total revenues in the last quarter, and the PC is also, AI PC is also a very big component of that. Today, as AI training develops and more AI capabilities are being enhanced, more people will use and need to consume and interact with the agents through their devices. And I think the upgrade for better and more higher performance devices will be a necessary part of that journey. You see that with the likes of the OpenAI and others having partnerships with either from a staffing perspective or a strategic perspective with device makers. And we're also seeing that in terms of dialogues that we're having with AI companies and their desire to work with us from a go-to-market perspective as well.
Winston, what is the truth of what's happening with memory? How severe is that as a bottleneck?
Well, certainly this incredible spend and development of AI in terms of the AI infrastructure is really driving the component shortages, not only in memory, but you're also hearing it in terms of CPU and of course GPU demand as well. I think that would be multi-year opportunity in terms of that demand, but at the same time, the industry needs to catch up in terms of that supply chain to satisfy that demand. But I think for now, that's causing the supply and demand imbalance is causing the memory prices to go up. But on the AI infrastructure side, we're able to pass through that demand because that's where the strong demand is in terms of the pricing for pass through. But on the device side, I think the lower end, you're starting to see in terms of the first quarter IDC numbers that those that cannot get supply, I think have seen their market shares decline.
So Winston, what you just outlined, and bear with me on this one, how much are you negotiating with yourself? You have different business lines. They both need common components, high bandwidth memory. You know that on the infrastructure side, the server side, that's where the demand is. So do you have to have a word with yourself and say, well, what about my PC business? Do you have to make a choice of where you prioritize?
That's a great question in terms of, but I think what the suppliers appreciate with us is that we have that global portfolio. We have the most complete portfolio from PC to tablet to smartphone. And I think that gives them the forecast necessary as our long-term partners. We also have that demand forecast from the server side as well of our business. So from that perspective, we are strategic partners for suppliers as well in terms of that accuracy of that forecast. We need to supply in terms of satisfying our long-term Lenovo friends in terms of the ThinkPad, which is so well loved in the market. And I think we need to make sure that there's enough supply going to that demand as well.
Lenovo CFO Winston Cheng, it's great to have you on Bloomberg Tech. Thank you very much. Now, coming up on the show, smart ring maker Aura files confidentially for a US public listing. We're going to have the details of that next. This is Bloomberg Tech.
Hardware is very, very attractive right now because you can't vibe code atoms.
Yes.
Right? You can't just summon them into existence. And so, interestingly, I think for Aura, steering the way we have and having always been a hardware company with a very strong software backing, it's actually been really advantageous. And investors look at us and they say, good, we're so glad that you're not in the software space and that you're a hardware provider.
That was Aura CEO Tom Hale giving perhaps a preview of how the wearable maker will pitch investors in an IPO. He was speaking to our Caroline Hyde at the Cancelo Spark Summit. And just a week later, Aura files confidentially to go public. For more, let's speak to our consumer tech editor, Bloomberg's Dana Wollman. Okay, so we reported this citing a source that they'd filed confidentially. Then I think the company comes out and says, yes, we filed confidentially. But in our original report, there's more detail there. There are some serious banks that are working with the company. This seems very real.
Yes, absolutely. This is an all-star list of banks. I believe Goldman Sachs was the first on the list. And we don't know the exact timing, just that the company expects to go public sometime later this year. And other details are missing, too. Key details like what the price would be when it eventually hits the stock market.
Right. Now, the Bloomberg Tech audience is thinking, Ed's not looking as fresh as he did yesterday. I am an Aura Ring wearer, which I pay for myself, obviously. 74 sleep score, down from 90 the night prior. That is interesting. Historically, actually, most wearers, women, they have a story for the male category, which is longevity. And then last October, they raised money at an interesting valuation in the private markets. How much momentum has Aura got right now?
Oh, so much momentum. I mean, Bloomberg actually published a story toward the start of the year saying that this would essentially be the year that smart rings went mainstream. And this coming IPO really puts an exclamation point on that. Aura has seen sales of its smart rings rising and rising. And it's remarkable in that it started out as this really niche hardware category. And it's one that we really, as journalists here at Bloomberg, have had to spell out for a while. And we may get to a point where just it's widely understood what a smart ring is. And as you said, it might not just be something that a majority female audience wears, but that a really broader audience takes to.
What about Tom Hale, Aura's CEO? What has been his attitude towards the future of this company? Just real quick.
Just that it is a really viable kind of product that can reach a really wider audience. I think until now it's been sort of compared to smartwatches, especially the Apple Watch. And I think Tom Hale would say that something like the Aura Ring carves its own lane. It's really for people who want something completely different, not the distractions of notifications or a screen on their wrist, but really just something zeroed in on health and fitness tracking. And I think Aura, like a lot of other companies in this space, are trying to not just track your steps, let's say, your everyday fitness, but become some sort of auxiliary predictor of your overall health.
Bloomberg's Dana Wollman with the Aura story. Thank you very much. A lot more news. Time for Talking Tech. And first up, Waymo has temporarily halted service in 5 cities amid severe weather over concerns that its robotaxis may attempt to drive on flooded roads. Storms swept through Atlanta on Wednesday, during which an unoccupied Waymo vehicle drove and got stuck in a flooded road. Plus, DeepSeek senior management has told potential investors the startup will prioritize groundbreaking AI research over short-term monetization. That's according to sources. This comes as the startup's in the final discussions over a funding deal that could push its valuation to about $45 billion before the investment. And the EU will propose temporarily lifting sanctions on a major Chinese chip supplier after automakers warned of impending supply chain chaos if the ban isn't removed, according to sources. However, such a move would require approval by the bloc's 27 member states. Coming up, more earnings. The CFO of Zoom, Michelle Chang, after the company raised its full-year forecast. Quick look at markets on the way out. Half-time, it's Bloomberg Tech. Welcome back to Bloomberg Tech. This is what markets look like right now. And probably like the big picture story is not that. That's stocks that are in the quantum realm. Quantum stocks are getting a big 2-day boost. That's just one day, but we saw a massive gain in those same names yesterday. The story is the US, like the country, like the government, putting $2 billion to secure American leadership in the sector. IBM's getting $1 billion of that. So after a big jump yesterday, we're seeing continued gains into today. We're going to go a bit more macro later in the show. I'll ask the team to move the chart because I thought it was a pretty decent chart worth looking at. One of the most read stories today, there it is. All right, let's do this. The S&P 500, the benchmark equities index of the world, is up for an 8th straight week. Its best run of gains since 2023. And at the end of 2023, we saw the index end the year with 9 straight weeks of gains. I've been thinking about this a lot. And if you think about market cap gain, particularly since the war in Iran started, it's Nvidia, Alphabet, Apple. It is tech that accounts for a big part of that rally. Something that everyone's clicking on today is a story by Bloomberg's Brody. Salesforce is making flashy promises about its agentic capabilities. It's part of this effort to win over the skeptics, questioning how it can compete against what we call AI native firms. But there's an issue with Salesforce claims. They are aspirational. Bloomberg's Brody Ford's here with us in SF. A lot of traffic on the story. Dig into it. There are charts and data in here, but why is this aspirational? How are we defining that?
Yeah, so I think we've all seen some flashy AI demos and thought, like, is this real? Can I use this today? And so we just kind of took that simple question and applied it to one of tech's loudest marketers, Salesforce. They've shown in keynotes and commercials some AI agent functionality handling all sorts of customer service by itself. And, in a lot of cases, we tried it out and it's not there yet. It's aspirational. These commercials and keynotes show a future vision of what their customers hope to implement. And it underscores that getting AI online is difficult. And a lot of companies are working on it. And it's going to be a bit of a slog to get this stuff online in many cases.
The way that I think about it is Salesforce will talk about the number of customers signed up to an agentic product, basically. The question sometimes is that company actually using it yet or deployed it yet? Like, does it exist in the real world? Is there any data on that?
I didn't find any hard data, but, anecdotal example, Williams-Sonoma, luxury retailer based down the street. I mean, they've been in keynotes, they've been in commercials, and some of the more advanced functionality they've shown on stage, I asked them and spoke with them, and they say, well, hopefully it's up by the holidays, so you might be paying and it takes a while.
Just real quick, we should say you chatted with Mark Benioff.
Yes.
What did he say?
I did speak with CEO Mark Benioff, who said pretty much this kind of marketing is normal, that in the tech industry, you got to show customers a vision. Everybody does it, and the customers are not confused. It's properly disclosed. I don't know if it's true that all customers and people on the street would understand when they see a commercial, that means that it's not actually functional in the way it shows.
But what does Salesforce do? No, we'll save that for another time. Bloomberg's Brody Ford. Thank you very much. Let's take a look at shares of Zoom, and another name that moving to the upside on strong set of numbers. This after the company raised its full year forecast for both adjusted earnings and revenue, prompting upgrades at KeyBank and higher price targets at both RBC and Baird. It's been a little while since we talked about Zoom. Delighted to say that Michelle Chang, Zoom CFO, joins us now. I love getting into the Zoom story. We're many of us users of Zoom, but why now a strong set of numbers? Like, what was it in the calendar period, in the fiscal quarter, that you saw through the numbers?
Yeah, thanks. First, thanks for having me. It's so great to be here and talk about the stock. What we delivered yesterday has really been what we have been working on and delivering consistently over the last several quarters. This is no longer just the meetings company. And I think yesterday's earnings was just another great notch, an example of us working towards that. So clearly showing that AI is monetizing, clearly showing our inflection in the growth, which is what investors want from us, and doing it with great profitability as well. And you saw the stock had a great reaction.
Michelle, this is a sincere question, even if in the first instance you might come across as far-fetched. Okay. If I am invited to a meeting at some point and it's not Zoom, it might be a WebEx, it might be the tool of another larger tech company. Mm-hmm. What's your pitch to that business that they should still be thinking about using Zoom? Because clearly, there's a world where there are options, right? There is a world where people are not using Zoom.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would say, a couple of years back, the pitch was best quality. When you can't afford to have the meeting go down, you want the reliability, you want the quality, you want the innovation. But look, Zoom is in a very different place where, a lot of where we're going as a company is this concept of a system of action. What we can see inside the company, what we can see outside the company with things like customer experience, and the power of what it looks like when AI gets stitched in between those things. And so more now so, I think we move to the kind of real tangible AI value. I heard the story earlier, the real tangible AI value that we're already delivering for our customers.
The data point that jumped out at me is that those users that are paying and willing to pay for the AI companion, I think almost tripled year on year in that period. What's behind that? I mean, it's not just video conferencing, right? It's people saying, okay, well, I'll use this as a workspace.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we said that our paid MAU went up 184%. And really what's behind that? Look, it started out as meeting summaries. We're pleased to even add this quarter, even 4 months ago, we announced something called My Notes. Think of that as your personal context, your note taker. Even that alone grew in 4 months to 1.5 million MAU. Look, where Zoom is going is far more about the meeting's life cycle. It's no longer just that 30 minutes or 60 minutes that we have that human to human connection, which will always endure in an AI world, but it's the entire life cycle of how you get work done that really brings the Zoom value prop to our customers.
Michelle, we just have about 45 seconds left, but everyone knows what the story for Zoom was in the COVID era. Present day, how would you summarize the Zoom story?
Yeah. Look, it's no longer just about meetings. We are retaining that original customer love that we always had, that pace of innovation, the security, the trust, all the things that made Zoom Zoom. But where we're going is all about system of action. The context that we have from all of the things that you do inside the organization to outside of the organization. And we're all about taking those conversations and moving them to completion. Because when we know that we do, we add tremendous value for our customers. And look, you saw the results for us financially, right? We're maintaining profitability, revenue growing, high cash flow generation. So we're super excited about where things are going at Zoom.
Well, for the Zoom user that has this setting switched on, if I go like that or I go like that, it will appear on the screen. Michelle Chang, Zoom CFO, back on Bloomberg Tech. Thank you very much. An update on the saga around the Standard Chartered CEO's comments. Earlier this week, CEO Bill Winters talked about how AI would affect, quote, lower value human capital. Major public backlash followed, prompting CEO Bill Winters to strike a more conciliatory tone in a memo to staff. Then Winters doubled down on a LinkedIn post earlier today, explaining the bank has for many years invested in helping staff whose roles have been upended by automation, saying, quote, we have a responsibility to help colleagues move into higher value roles. Then, just a couple of hours later, Winters officially apologized for his original comments in another LinkedIn post, writing that he recognized his choice of words had, quote, caused upset to some colleagues, and for that, I am sorry, he wrote.